Welcome to NPS Now, your source for news and information about Norfolk Public Schools. I'm your host, Karen Tanner, and with me today is Dr. Linda Sevigny, the Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning. Welcome to NPS Now.
Thank you. Good morning.
Glad to have you here. Just
you.
this past week, we had Dr. Houston and Dr. King, and they were on the show talking about our recent SOL scores. And so I thought I'd have you come on the show from Teaching and Learning to give us an idea of what we're doing here in Norfolk to work with our students academically.
Okay.
We've got the scores. How do you think we should really be reacting to these scores that we received?
Well, I think the scores tell us a story, and they tell us that the instructional framework that we implemented 2 years ago, the NPS Cycle for Results, which is an instructional frame that's built around best practice that's been replicated across the nation and quite frankly around the world, is working. We're beginning to see student achievement trend upward. So we're very excited about that. Our teachers and our administrators are working extremely hard. Our students are working extremely hard, and we are seeing growth. We are seeing students step forward, accept the challenge, and move upward. So we're very excited.
What does that growth look like? And give me an example.
Well, it varies from test to test. We give approximately 34 tests by the state, and on 24 of those tests, we saw growth. And in some of those, it was double-digit growth. So even though we may not have met the state benchmark of 70 or 75% on the final aggregate achievement of those tests, we did see growth. As I said, in some cases, it was as much as double digits. So we're moving upward.
Right, great. And we know when the state makes changes to the SOL tests, it affects our students and teachers.
Yes.
How so?
Well, when the curriculum changes, the end of the year assessment associated with that curriculum also changes. And what Virginia has done throughout the past few years is enhance the rigor of their curriculum and enhance the rigor of that end of the year or that summative assessment that students take, whether it's the SOL in the spring or the end of course test that our high schoolers take. So because of that shift where it went from a curriculum that was based on knowledge to a curriculum based on students taking that knowledge and being able to apply it to a new situation or to a problem or to a scenario, there was a little bit of transition. Our teachers had to go through some shifting in how they deliver that instruction so that they are acting more as a facilitator for students, so that they are laying that foundation and then allowing students to run with the problem, so to speak. And then our students had to step up to the challenge as well, because those bubble tests in the past that you and I took when we were in school that was really essentially asking us to just recall facts that we had, now we have to know those facts, we have to have mastered them, and we have to be able to apply them to a situation that we encounter on the assessment. So how students test is very different today than it was even 3 years ago.
So how are we assessing the students before they actually take the SOL to see if they're really prepared and ready?
Good question. One of the things that we have implemented here in Norfolk Public Schools is what we call our benchmark system, and Norfolk has always done internal assessments. So what we did was take those assessments and refine them, so to speak, with the focus on how students are tested at the end of the year. So instead of just having straight multiple choice where students are recalling facts, they have to know those facts and be able to apply them to some type of situation. And some of those problems even have a technology enhanced item where students have to interact with technology, a ruler, a protractor, a highlighter, a calculator, some type of technology to be able to answer the question, because those are also embedded within the state end of the course test. So students have 3 or 4 opportunities, depending upon their grade level, to practice with that type of assessment before they encounter the end of the year assessment, so that students just have the opportunity, one, to take their test online, because that's another big difference. In years past, those tests were done paper and pencil, and now they're all done online. So we try really hard for a great majority of our assessments to be done online, so students have that simulated high-stakes testing opportunity many times before they get to the end of the year with that end of course test that counts for real, so to speak.
Do you think it's more successful doing the tests online as opposed to the bubble?
Well, I can tell you that our success rate here for the last 2 years has been very high in regard to the number of irregularities or the number of issues that we've run into. So I've only been in Virginia and here in Norfolk for 2 years. I'm beginning my 3rd year, so I can only speak in terms of what I have encountered for the last few years, and the issues or the problems that we've had with those tests have been minimal at best.
Knowing that the SOLs are here to stay, they're not going anywhere, that's just what the state is mandating and requiring to test our students. Is it apropos for us as a district, as I think we're trending to revamp our pre-K program?
Oh, most definitely, most definitely. I'm very excited about what we're doing with pre-K, and in fact this past year we revamped all of our internal structure, our infrastructure to support early learning, so that now we have a birth to 3 coordinator and a teacher specialist, we have a pre-K 4 coordinator and 2 teacher specialists, and we have a kindergarten coordinator and a teacher specialist. So we really see that continuum of early learning to be beyond just pre-K 4, so that is a birth to 5 range, and we're trying to put those support structures in place to provide families across the district with varying levels of support to meet their needs. So having said all of that, I'm very excited about pre-K. Having said all of that, we are working very earnestly to secure additional funding so that we can offer more pre-K. We were able to expand our pre-K 3 program so that we now have 21 pre-K 3 classrooms across the district, and we have over 100 pre-K 4 classrooms across the district, or 100 pre-K 4 classrooms across the district. So we are meeting the needs of right around 2,000 of our children, but we know that we have many more children beyond that whom we simply do not have the seats to serve right now in our 3- and 4-year-old program. So that is one of our big drives this year, is to secure additional funding, because we need more funding so we can expand our program.
And it's great that we're catching them in pre-K.
Yes.
And getting them prepared for testing.
Yes.
And they'll know what to expect on those tests and how to test.
Excuse me. And even with pre-K, we do some diagnostic testing. We administer a test called PALS, and that deals with phonological awareness for students in terms of literacy. And there are different milestones that students take depending on whether they're 3 or 4 or 5 or even in 1st and 2nd grade to determine where they are. But we are assessing students. Now, how that assessment is done looks very different when you're 3 versus when you're 8 or 9 in 3rd grade. But we are beginning to assess students just so that we can capture some baseline data so that we can really pinpoint our instruction for those students, because ultimately with pre-K, we want every child to exit pre-K ready to read if they are not already reading, so that when they enter kindergarten, we can hit the ground running.
Is it ready to read and read to learn, or what's the statement?
Learning to read.
Learning to read.
Yes. Yes.
Reading to learn.
Yes. So we want children to be ready. So that means when we exit pre-K, we need to know all of our letters and the sounds. We need to be segmenting or beginning to put those letters and sounds together so we can make words. Once we've done that, then we can read. And that's what we spend the majority of our time in pre-K doing, is providing students with all of those foundational skills so that when they hit kindergarten, they're ready to read, if not already reading, and we can run with our curriculum.
And not only are you assessing the pre-K, but you're looking at the elementary, middle, and high school and assessing them as well. And we have safety nets for students. Talk with us about safety nets and what that's about.
We're very excited that we have the flexibility with our budgeting process to provide each school with a set amount of funding so that they can diagnose issues with their students. And what schools are doing right now is they're giving all those diagnostic tests that are provided by the district, and then they're analyzing that preliminary diagnostic test or the baseline data for every child, and they're comparing it to the spring data, if it's available for children, to determine who needs some additional help right now. Who can we determine today needs some additional help so that he or she is mastering quicker than if we wait, say, to the 9-week mark when that first progress report drops or that interim report drops. So we're trying to intervene earlier. And with those safety nets, it allows principals, and that's the beauty of safety nets, each principal designs his or her own plan to meet the needs of their children. So the district provides them with a set, with money or the funds, but then the principal and his or her leadership team crafts those funds to meet the needs of children. So in some schools, for instance, they they hire retired teachers to come in and tutor during the school day.
Okay.
In others, they are doing tutorial sessions after school and then providing transportation for the kids to go home. In other schools, they're doing tutorial sessions on Saturday mornings, and they're providing buses for children to come in and then to go back home in the afternoon. So how that looks at each school is a little bit different because our schools are very different, and we want principals to have the flexibility to craft the plans that meet the needs of their children and their school community.
So with all of this, you need professional development for teachers as well.
Yes, we do.
What does that look like this year for our teachers?
We have a lot of training that we have been doing for the last few years and will continue to do throughout this year. We are blessed that we have partnered with the Virginia Department of Education, and they are providing us with many, many resources to use here in our district with our teachers. We started the year earlier. The school board allowed us to add professional learning days to our school calendar this year. So already this year, all of our teachers have had many days of training. We brought everybody in 2 days before the school year started, and we focused those 2 days primarily on working with curriculum and assessments. Then we had Dr. Eric Jensen here during the week of August, and every instructional staff member rotated through a half-day session with Dr. Jensen, who shared with us and reminded us about the neuroscience associated with the brain and how children interact with poverty, and really modeled for all of us over 20 strategies that we could pick up the next day and use with any student. So it was a good, very interactive session. For some of us it was a reminder, and for others it may have been new information, but everybody, regardless of where they were on that knowledge continuum, walked away with more than 20 strategies that they could implement with their children the next day.
And you did something special too. Dr. Harry Wong was here talking with your first year teachers.
Yes.
I saw that, and it was very powerful.
Yes, Dr. Wong and his wife Rosemary were both here, and they spent a day with our new teachers talking about classroom procedures and consistency and management. And he spent a lot of time talking about building relationships with children and how fundamentally important that was. And then Dr. Jensen, a big piece of his was establishing that genuine rapport and those relationships with children as well. So the theme for us throughout this year is really having those genuine connections with our students and our staff and our community, because it's the relationship that has the power.
How do you think all of this professional development is going to help our teachers, our students and our teachers?
Well, I think as we improve as educators, we take that knowledge and we internalize it, and it impacts our practice. So as educators, we're committed to lifelong learning. So I think the more that we focus and fine-tune our craft to make it better, that impacts our practice, which in turn makes it better for students because the quality of what we are delivering improves, and then the outcome of that is student achievement improves. None of us are perfect. No one is perfect, and we are all continuing to learn new things every day. So having this very district-wide focus on the quality of professional learning and making sure that it is 100% aligned back to the cycle for results, and in regard to the new curricula and the new way things being assessed, we feel very comfortable and confident that we're moving in the right direction.
Great. So how do you think central office is able to effectively communicate the true goals and purposes of what we're doing as a district to the principals and then the staff this year?
We've got lots of different things going on. One, we just recently published our Striving and Growing pamphlet that came out that kind of highlights all of our achievements throughout this year in terms of student achievement. We share things quite regularly via email and memo. Your news show is an excellent way that we share information as well, so thank you again for that invitation. And then we also have monthly and quarterly meetings with our administrators in the buildings to make sure that there's not any type of communication gap. And at those monthly meetings, principals are meeting directly with their executive directors, and then different individuals from different departments kind of float into those meetings and share information. And then on the quarterly level, we bring everybody together and we share. And then if I may go back just a little bit, in August, we brought all of our administrators together for 2 days. And we brought them together so that we could all work through the opening, beginning of the year kind of components and make sure that we all had the same information in regard to the same expectations, and all that's been committed to paper. And it's very explicit, and everyone is very clear in regard to what those expectations are, and it's, as I said, on paper so everyone understands.
And you mentioned you've been here 3 years. So
I'm starting my third year.
You're starting your third year.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for staying.
No, thank you. We love it.
I'm just kidding. What has been some of your greatest challenges, you think?
Let me think. I think in regard to the city, just learning to navigate the city has been for a personal challenge for me. And people joke because on a personal note, I did unplug the GPS in my car and go to the visitor center and get a map so I could make myself learn all the streets. So once I figured out that just because the map says I'm going north and this road says I'm going north, I may not really be going north, I was okay. It took me a little while to figure that out. Professionally, I think the challenge has been just making sure that we have solid veins of communication in place, because there are so many layers. We are a major organization.
Yes.
We have, thousands upon thousands of employees, and every single one is invested in improving the quality of lives for our children, and just making sure that everyone has the same understanding of where we're going as a school district, and putting different processes and procedures in place to make sure that internally we're communicating all that we need to.
And what are your top 3 priorities this year?
Well, professional learning and making sure that we are continuing to provide teachers with the training that they need as much as possible in their buildings so they're not having to leave to go get it. Focusing on making sure that everything that we are doing is aligned. And that a whole alignment piece, everything needs to be aligned. And when I say aligned, I mean it needs to be very clear. It needs to be explicitly clear so that anyone can look at our plan and see, oh, the professional development directly relates to the cycle for results, which relates to safety nets. And then the third is making sure that our strategic plan continues to thrive in the environment that we're in. We're entering year 2 of our strategic plan, and we're very excited about where we are, but it's a big plan. And sometimes the larger the plan, the more worrisome some individuals are just by the magnitude of the plan. So we're working really hard to make sure that all of the year 2 plans are streamlined in a way that everyone can look at just a few pages and see the essence of what we're trying to do, making sure that our baseline data is accurate, that our targets are accurate and real, and that they're achievable within a year, and that all of our plans are to ultimately improve the quality of lives for our children. But because we are a large organization, we have to look at the whole organization and make sure that our plans are well-rounded and meeting the needs of everyone in our community.
That's great. Well, thank you for coming on the show
thank
today
you.
and sharing information with us. We want to thank you and want you to stay tuned for more NPS Now. Welcome back to NPS Now. With me now is Sherrod Willaford, Executive Director for the new School Improvement Office. Welcome to NPS Now.
Hi.
Well, you've avoided me for a year, but I finally got you. I'm just kidding. You are on NPS Now. I'm glad to have you here, and I want you to explain to us this new department, School Improvement. But first, people need to know who Dr. Willaford is. So give me a little background about you.
Well, I would say that I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia, born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia. I attended Clark Atlanta University in studying to become an educator. I started off my career in DeKalb County school system, where I graduated from that school system as well. Later in my career, I moved on to Rockdale County Public Schools, where I became an administrator. And after working as an administrator for about 10 years, I decided to move to Norfolk, Virginia to become executive director for elementary schools, which I did that last school year and had a good time serving our schools, working with our principals in leadership and teacher effectiveness. And then now currently serving as your executive director for school improvement, a role that I feel I was really trained over the years to do. I received a doctorate in school improvement from the University of West Georgia before coming here. And so now I'm able to put all of my training and experiences, expertise to work with a focus zone of schools.
Right, and Norfolk Public Schools is focusing on our school improvement, and so they felt the need to create this department. Why is that?
Well, to really understand school improvement, you have to go back to the Elementary and Secondary Educational Acts of 1965. That's where accountability really came to be. That ESEA Act, as it's called, passed by Congress, became the No Child Left Behind Act of 2001. A lot of us are very familiar with the No Child Left Behind Act of 2001, which again just reauthorized the ESEA Act of 1965. No Child Left Behind said that all students would meet accountability standards by 2013-14, and we all know that that didn't happen, or it just wasn't going to happen. And so the state of Virginia applied for a flexibility waiver and was granted that flexibility waiver for schools. In return for the waiver, they had to create an accountability system in which we all work on it. And so under that accountability system, we had a situation where some schools were accredited and some were not accredited. And so we have schools that are not accredited. Within that process of accreditation, you have years to reach accreditation. And we, again, have schools that have not become fully accredited.
So real quick, why is it important to have this program, to have this new academic opportunity for our students?
It's very important that schools are fully accredited, that their instructional programs are measured in ways that show that that students are learning.
So due to the SWL results, we in turn looked at our schools and understand we labeled them focus or priority schools.
And that goes back to the waiver. Part of the waiver, as part of the waiver, states that that the state will name the bottom 5% of their schools as priority schools. So you rank the schools. There's I call it an algorithm, a calculation where Title I schools are ranked according to their results. And so the bottom 5% are entitled priority schools, and then you have another bottom 10% that are focus schools.
Now, which schools here in Norfolk are focus schools and priority schools?
Okay. Presently, we have two focus schools, Sherwood Forest Elementary and Richard Bolin Elementary. Priority schools are P.B. Young, Tidewater Park, Lake Taylor Middle School, Compostela Elementary School, Lindenwood, and Jaycox Elementary School.
Now, do these focus schools have particular academic programs aligned to them now, being that they're in the focus and priority school category?
All schools are expected to follow the standards. They have requirements being priority and focus schools that makes them different from other schools. they have requirements that they have to meet. For example, shared governance team meetings is a requirement or happening for priority schools. That we have these shared governance team meetings that include division level leaders, the principal, leadership teams from the building, and we meet each month to discuss the instructional program, professional development, parental involvement, extended learning time, all of these, what we call the 7 turnaround principles. They have school improvement plans that are developed around those principles. And part of our job is to ensure that those principles are being implemented with fidelity and that the school improvement plan is being monitored and ultimately student achievement is moving forward.
What's some of those principles that they're using in the schools?
Well, the principles are passed down by the U.S. Department of Education. There are 7. The first one deals with having a strong leader and developing the leader's capacity for what we call operational flexibility. The next one deals with teacher effectiveness and retaining and rewarding good teachers, developing good teachers or effective teachers. You also have redesigning the learning day, extended learning time. Each school should have a strong instructional, rigorous quality instructional program. You also have professional development and parental involvement.
And pulling out and having this particular department, school improvement office, not a department, an office, what will success look like for our focus and priority schools, being that we're doing this?
Yes, our success is predicated upon our school success. We've set goals in the Office of School Turnaround and Improvement. We've set goals that are reflective of the school's goals. We have goals for reading. We have goals for mathematics. We have goals in terms of how we do the work. We have goals for improving the climate, goals for teacher morale and discipline. So our goals are mirrored by what we see in the schools. And ultimately, our success will be measured by the number of schools that come out of priority and focus, the improvement effort.
How long do you think it's going to take for us to actually do that? What's a realistic goal?
Research says that it takes about 3 years to improve a school or for the practices that we are emphasizing to become embedded. And in terms of achievement, it takes about 3 years. And from what I've measured, I sincerely feel like that's what it's going to take for Norfolk to see these schools improve. When you really think about it, over this past year, we've seen improvement that's been well documented and said. We've seen improvement. I like to think that we're scratching the surface in that area. I anticipate, with the support that this office will provide and the hard work that our principals and teachers are doing, that we will see rapid improvement this year, which will put us in position to become fully accredited in subsequent years. And that is the ultimate goal, is for our schools to be fully accredited, both for our students, our parents, and the community at large.
Well, thank you for informing us about the new School Improvement Office and what it works and how it works and who's involved and which schools are involved. And we'll probably have you back on the show to talk more about the progress of our focus and priority schools. So thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
And we want to thank you for watching NPS Now. It airs weekly on WNPS Channel 47, or watch us online. Or if you have any interesting news or information you want to share for the show, email us at npsnews@npsk12.com. Again, thank you for watching NPS Now.